10 days in, and by the 8th day, we saw this weather forecast coming, and it was like 2 days of rain. And so we knew, okay, we're going to have to, like, on our 10th day, hunker down. We are targeting that we would make it to our next base camp, which is at 2,600 feet, 400 feet from the top. And we had 2 portaledges. So prior to that, the first week plus, my climbing partner Elliot and I were sharing a portaledge, which, to your question, is a 4 foot by 6 foot, essentially like a tent structure that is made of Dyneema, and its bottom is quite pulled tight, so it has like the firmness to sleep on. And then there's a rain shelter, which is essentially a tent that sits over the portaledge to prevent, rain from seeping in. So like a tent, but vertical, pretty small.
Like a tent, but like an awful tent.
Like a tiny tent.
I'm 6'5", a deuce 50. Like, this sounds like a tent that I could wear as like a boutonniere. Oh, there's rain coming. Better get in my tent. And I just place it on my head. A hilariously small tent.
Like a Gore-Tex sombrero.
Yes, exactly. This is the Outside Podcast with Patty O. Picture this. You're staying at a cabin in the woods for a week of outdoor fun, and an unforeseen winter storm rolls in, delaying your departure for an indeterminate amount of time. What would you do? Probably hunker down, make a fire, crack open a book, or start a movie marathon, right? I certainly would. But what if, instead of a cozy cabin, you were stuck in a tent? But instead of a tent on the ground, it was a tent hanging off a cliff 2,600 feet in the air. And instead of a tent, it was really just a small frame of aluminum poles holding up a thin piece of nylon. You'd probably try to figure out how to get out of there, right? Which is why you're probably not a big wall climber. Big wall climbing is like normal rock climbing, except the thing you're climbing is thousands of feet tall. The climb can take days or even weeks, and you bring most of what you need along with you. In addition to typically being elite level climbers, people who do this also excel at breaking down obscenely huge things into slightly less huge things, and then slightly less huge things into just really, really big things, and so on, until it's just a series of moves up 15 or 20 feet of rock. They're intensely focused, able to hold a gazillion details in their brain at once, and bizarrely comfortable sleeping on one of those non-tents I was just describing for nights on end. They're called portaledges, if you're wondering. And recently, climber Sasha DiGiulian and her partner Elliot Faber found themselves stuck in their portaledges when a freak winter storm hit as they attempted the platinum route on Yosemite's El Capitan. Any normal person would have turned tail and ran. Even most climbers would have probably bailed. But Sasha and Elliot figured, hey, we're only 400 feet from the top. Let's just wait out this storm and then we can send this thing. Now, the platinum route is no normal route. It's among the most challenging on one of the world's most challenging walls. And this was no normal storm. 9 days of relentless rain, wind, snow, and ice. Then again, Sasha is no normal climber. Sasha's climbing CV is legendary in the sport. She began competing at 7 years old and quickly racked up national and world championships as easily as you or I snag a cookie from the cupboard. A deal with her parents required that she maintain straight A's in order to travel for competitions, and she rode that record all the way to Columbia University. As a freshman, she developed her own energy bars and, because this is just how she thinks, registered and trademarked the business that became Send Bars. After graduation, Sasha made the switch from indoor climbing competitions to outdoor big wall challenges, and her list of accomplishments grew commensurate with the size of the climbs. First woman to climb Magic Mushroom on the Eiger, Mora Mora in Madagascar, and the Canadian Big Wall Trilogy, to name only a few. Sasha is, needless to say, supremely driven, which is why she stuck it out on platinum and why platinum is her latest first. So, I wanted to talk to Sasha because I think we can all learn something helpful from the way she breaks down these awe-inspiring vertical expeditions into manageable pieces. And if you don't think that applies to your life in any way, how about this? How, in the name of king-size beds and indoor plumbing do you gut out 9 freezing, soaking days on a tiny scrap of nylon 2,600 feet off the deck without going so deliriously stir-crazy you wind up duct taping your camping/climbing partner in their sleeping bag and scribbling "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" over and over again on your bags of freeze-dried gorp? That bit will put your next office spat into perspective, my friends. First things first, burnt toast. What's your last humbling and or hilarious moment outside?
I mean, embarrassing. I had malaria on a portaledge in Madagascar. That was pretty humbling, embarrassing, and all of the above, because there's nothing like trying to go to the bathroom with that situation.
Oh my God.
Maybe that.
How many people were in the portaledge with you?
Oh, it was me and my climbing partner, who happened to be my boyfriend at the time, and the person who was filming.
How did you navigate? Were you like, all right, turn around, boys?
A little bit like that. I mean, I feel like the funny thing about a portaledge is like, or climbing a big wall in general, is probably the most ubiquitous question that people ask in the comments, especially on TikTok, is like, how do you go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
So the short answer.
But also it's like, well, how do you go to the bathroom when you have malaria? Oh God. So what's the short answer?
Short answer is, outside on a portaledge, you use a wag bag. The medium answer is I ended up going to a hospital when I got back, but I actually finished the climb with malaria. The thing about it was it got progressively worse and worse and worse. So luckily I was on the front end of the disease.
My mouth is agape here. This is awful. This sounds terrible. I mean, I can hardly sit up in bed when I have the common cold. This is
But we all are like that, when you're in it, you just do what you need to do.
If you're just in it with malaria, it's kind of chill. Don't worry, everybody. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So I'm actually hoping to do something a little bit different in our chat today. In our research, something interesting popped up and made our team over here kind of go your academic career is something that is often noted as kind of like a shorthand of how much of a superhuman you are, but it's done really quickly. It's almost like a footnote in articles and or documentaries that you've been in. It's not something that we ever really found that's explored into any depth. So I wanted to spend some time kind of digging around in your history of eggheadery, let's call it. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Let's talk about your big giant brain here, because growing up you were a high-level competition climber. You're sending harder climbs at an age younger than any of your peers, but meanwhile you're getting straight A's and on the path to an Ivy League education. So, do you think that you're a bit of a perfectionist?
I definitely have some perfectionist tendencies. I'm such a individual sport athlete in the way that my perfectionism pertains strictly to me, like what I can, control in my life, how I can show up, how I can work hard. But when it comes to other people, it's a lot easier for me to go with the flow and be flexible with plans and all of that. But when it comes to getting my own list done, whether it's studying, showing up to meetings, executing my training, that's where I feel very, maybe perfectionist or just driven to get it all done.
So soft with others, hard on yourself?
Yeah, that's probably a short way to say it.
I mean, do you think that has held you back at all or hindered you at all?
I definitely beat myself up over not getting stuff done or not feeling like I did my best. I would definitely say that the competitions where I slipped and fell earlier than I know that I could have, and, climbs that I didn't feel like I did my best on, or ones that I didn't send, because that's what's often not reported is all the climbs that you try that you don't do.
Yeah.
But I think that it's helped me. I mean, it's given me a lot of drive. And while I may not be the kindest to myself, I think that that's something I'm continuously going to be working on. And that's what therapy is really great for.
No doubt.
I'm really happy that I do have a mentality that is hard on myself because it enables me to like keep going and working really hard in the direction of like seeing what's possible.
Do you think, though, that the thing that connects both, like, oh, I'm going to get the best grades I can possibly get, and any competition that I enter, I'm going to try my damnedest to win that thing. Where does this, like, drive for high-level achievement come from? Is that something that all of your family members have? Or are you kind of the outlier? Is everybody else a little, like, more laid back and mellow, and you're like, screw you guys, I'm not sitting around on a couch today?
Yeah, I would definitely say that my family's really hardworking. You know, I grew up with a dad who really inspired me on the business side. He ran his own business, and my mom chose to raise my brother and me after she quit working. She was like a full-time mom, really making my life, my brother's life possible to go and do all these hobbies and sports and extracurriculars. But my parents definitely stressed, my mom especially, the importance of getting straight A's. Yeah, it's funny, I haven't spoken too much about this, but if I were to break down the why behind it, is my parents really valued education.
Yeah.
And I know that my mom and my dad saw education as a way to have freedom over your life. And if you pave your way by having good grades, it opens opportunities to do what you want to do. And for no reason other than, I think, perhaps the vanity of it, my dad always wanted me to go to an Ivy League school. He didn't go to an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
My dad's side of the family immigrated from Italy. And my mom's Canadian. My mom's side of the family is very educated. My dad's side, all entrepreneurial. So the guiding line through my early experiences with climbing was, if I got straight A's, I could miss school and go to Europe for a competition, you know, when I was 12.
That's a pretty good motivator.
Could be. If my grades slipped, then I couldn't miss school to explore this hobby.
Did you see the good grades less as like, oh, this is like a burden that my parents are putting on me, and more of like, oh, this is kind of like my get out of jail free card?
Yeah, I would say it was more the latter. I've never been the smartest. I've never been the best climber, whatever it is. But I know that if I were to boil down, what I feel very confident about is my work ethic. Like, I know how hard I work and how much I show up to just give myself the best chance at succeeding. And maybe I learned that from learning what it took to like get good grades in school. I'm not totally sure. I think it was always very systematic for me. I mean, it was like, you do this, you go to this, you do this, you go to this.
The lives and accomplishments of professional athletes can be inspirational, it can be aspirational, but it's pretty difficult, I think, for regular old Joe Schmoes to find relatability in folks who seem singular, who are, you know, the best of the best in the world at what they do. You have achieved remarkable things in your climbing, and it is also true that there's not a lot about big wall climbing that the rest of us can really relate to. It's extreme.
You haven't had malaria on this
I haven't had malaria. I have being on a portaledge, not even stuck in a portaledge, just being on a portaledge is my worst nightmare. So what strikes me here about all of this is, like, despite all the courage and all of the very obvious athletic skill and risk involved in this thing that you do, on some level, the relatable piece here is that the big wall is your workplace. It's your office. Do you see it like that?
No,
Really?
I guess the act of climbing I see as like what brings me a lot of joy and drive. The workplace for me comes more in the planning, the figuring out, like, you know, what is it that I feel really excited to go and do, putting together like a pitch to get some funding to like cover the actual like filming of it and kind of the nuances that happen behind the scenes to being a pro climber. Technically it is my workplace, you know, when I'm like climbing and climbing well, the workplace being like the gym,
Sure.
training, all of
The
that.
emails, the phone calls, the meetings and stuff like that. Like, I totally
It's like
understand that. Yeah.
the moment you take the like sourdough loaf out of the oven and it's like actually fluffy and
Bacon, now you're talking about my friggin' language here. I don't mean to suggest that climbing isn't fun for you and you see it as some kind of like office task. But I do want to talk a little bit about what I find interesting in the interpersonal level of things. You know, like you're climbing with a partner. Essentially, that partner is a colleague, right? You both are there wherever there is to do a job, to accomplish this thing. And so I'm wondering if like office dynamics ever show up there and like how you navigate, say, any office conflict when you have a coworker who's also like in charge of your safety. You know, it's like Linda from HR is the person who has you on belay. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I understand your point.
Yeah.
And I actually very intrinsically understand it because I've taken a lot of the ingredients of what's been a successful climbing partner into the ingredients of who I hire at Send as well. And
what are those ingredients?
Communication is key. Like
Okay.
communication is number one around what you're feeling, what the voids are, what, you know, emotions on a wall of change. Quite often, like setting out the intention before you even leave the ground over what you want out of that goal. I think that that's like one of the things that, I mean, if you approach a work day and you're like, what is this week's priority, or what are the intentions that we need to get through? What are the hurdles? What needs work?
You said communication was the thing you look for in business and also in a climbing partner. And I want to kind of twist on that knob a little bit and use some like real world kind of work examples here to see if there's a comparison or link between the two. Like, let's say you have like a big client presentation at Send Bars and you're working with Bob, and Bob is in charge of getting presentation materials, right? But Bob is historically tardy and his research and prep work is historically always pretty lacking. You can't just yell at Bob like, you suck, Bob. I'm going to do this all by myself. Like, I'm just going to carry you along. You've got to figure out how to like calmly and assertively communicate with Bob and like motivate him to contribute to the team, right? So like, what is the big wall version of an office dynamic situation like that?
I like that. Bob, always tardy.
Friggin' Bob.
Yeah. I would say that everyone wants to feel empowered and driven by like their own unique goal. And cross department wise, when you break it down to a company, you know, you're going to have different people who excel in different tasks. With a climbing partner, what's unique is like if you're going to try and send something, then you both individually want to show up and do your best on those individual pieces. The climb that I did in Madagascar, I'll relate to too. So I went with my friend Mango and we set the intention that we wanted to do this climb called Bravo Les Filles, and it hadn't seen a full free ascent. It was a route that was developed by Lynn Hill and a team of women back in the late 90s. With Mango and I, we were like, I had a bit more of the big wall climbing background. So I said to her, you know, for me, sending it means sending every pitch. In the end, like Mango on the second half was like, I actually feel more comfortable if you can take the lead on these pitches because I don't like the amount of runouts and I don't feel comfortable with it. The bottom line of communication is just like transparency to where you're at. And back to Bob, if Bob's like, hey, I'm not a morning person, like I'm not going to come to early morning meetings, like maybe you're finding a middle ground there, like finding what motivates Bob to not be tardy or feel empowered and like driven. But the other thing is like, if someone's going to drop a ball, I would rather know that they're going to drop a ball ahead of time and say like, hey, I've got too much on my plate. I can't do it. And then I'll take it off their plate rather than like, hey, I had too much on my plate, so I didn't do it. And I think in climbing too, that's like a relatable aspect where it's like, I can't do this pitch. Can you take the lead on it?
I believe all of us who spend time in the backcountry in extreme situations understand communication as being calmly assertive and also very honest and very vulnerable. Do you think because you spend so much time in these extreme situations on these very breathtaking, very scary looking walls, that you have better communication skills and better ways of navigating relationships off the wall back in your quote unquote real life?
I think I'm definitely learning. I experienced this weird niche limelight since I was like an adolescent or like young teenager in my sport, where I had my first endorsement deal when I was 12. Wow. And then got a lot of like attention that I didn't know how to deal with. And I think that even like the way in which I communicated with myself around like finding comfort in who I was, and then could take that and communicate it to an external world, like that's on the individual level. But I think that the more comfortable you get with yourself and the more that you know yourself and your wants and needs, then the easier it is to navigate beyond yourself into relationships. I would say climbing, but also just like life experience in general. And like we all have that relationship or series of relationships that were like toxic, but you leave being like, wow, hindsight's 2020. What was I doing? But then you know, you learn a lot from it and you carry it forward. So I think that climbing's been one of those teachers in my life that's taught me how to cleanly communicate. But I've certainly had expeditions gone wrong where communication hasn't been really like well laid out and navigated, and relationships have been fractured because of that.
You don't have HR on your expeditions or afterwards. So how do you navigate these interpersonal conflicts during an expedition and then afterwards? Is it like, you know, I'm going to wash my hands of this person and this situation for the rest of time? Do you ever try to have like a post-mortem and say like, hey, like this is what I was thinking, I want to like solve this situation, like what were you thinking, like let me clean up my side of the street and try to meet you halfway?
The first part of that is just like transparency and vulnerability. Like you have to be willing to go there, and if the other person isn't willing to go there too, then I think you get to the latter part of like, what does this relationship mean to you? And sometimes it's easier to say like, hey, agree to disagree and we're going to walk our separate ways.
Yeah.
And I think that happens in business too. You know, it's like sometimes you just don't see eye to eye and it's not going to work. I would say that it's always ideal to be able to clean it up.
Yeah,
you know, you want to see eye to eye. You want to at least walk away recognizing that like something happened, but you can grow together stronger from it. But I've also had the experience where like the other person's not willing to meet you there. Yeah. And like you're like, hey, like you can only own your side and like show up as much as you can around the like the clarity of the communication, and be like, I made this mistake and this mistake and this mistake, whatever it may be. But I think that there's also like a really important aspect of like letting go. And when you've done all that you could do, and this ties back to performance too, you know, like how much can you beat yourself up over something that you just couldn't do? And maybe you can go back and do it. Maybe you can't, but you always have to kind of learn what went wrong to move forward.
Well, it's interesting that for someone who spends so much time clinging to very small holds on very vertical walls, your big lesson here is, hey, sometimes you just got to let go.
Yeah,
I don't want to be salacious or dramatic here, but are there any examples that you feel comfortable giving in these situations? Do you want to go there?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I mean, the most prominent example of this is actually featured in Here to Climb, which is my doc on HBO, which I led this all-female expedition to this remote island off the coast of Africa. And we kind of had all of the ingredients to go and have like a really cool adventurous trip. It ended up raining for like the entire time that we were camped at the base of the wall, and the team got fractured. For me, it was a really big learning lesson around like letting go of what I want to do, and like recognizing that the people that I was with didn't want to do the climb anymore. And I think that like on my end, I tried to push it to be like, hey, let's like keep going, and they were like, I'm not comfortable with the amount of exposure to rockfall and stuff like that. And I think that that's where the ego becomes like a really tricky thing too, because you go as a climber and you go on this big expedition, and the success of it hinges on your performance and like coming back with like the summit or,
Sure,
whatever it
yeah.
is. And I hadn't yet learned that it was okay to like just come back and be like, yeah, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine too, because we all came back alive.
Yeah.
And no injuries happened. But in the aftermath of that, I would say that it was a little messy. It was like, I don't know if everyone on that trip was ready to like confront everything that like went wrong and that we each individually learned from. And so I'm not friends, nor was I really friends with the people initially going. Like I kind of knew them tangentially through the industry and built this team that I thought would be really good.
Yeah.
We were like solid acquaintances. And I would say that that's more of where it's at now. Like, we're acquaintances. We don't run in the same circles. And the feeling on my side of the street, I guess, is like, I feel clean. I feel like I've done what I can to communicate like my apologies and what I did wrong. And in that specific case, like the individual specifically just isn't ready to go there. And that's fine too. I think that what's been tricky for me is like sometimes you just hold this like sensitivity around someone not liking you.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Lord knows, like I have plenty of people that I've never met that hate me. But you also have to be like, you know what? Like, I can't control their opinions.
Yeah.
You can just do your best.
Is it difficult not continuing to hold a grudge, hold resentment?
I would say that moreover, like I learned a lot from the failed attempt of that trip that led to a lot of like really important learning aspects to have successful trips from it.
Yeah.
So for that, like I'm really grateful for that experience as much as it was really hard. But yeah, I mean, I'm human and there's probably some people that are totally bulletproof and not affected by other people's opinions, but I have to actively like really try to stay confident in my own space. And I think that as I've gotten older and maybe a little bit smarter, I've learned to accrue it's like the people I listen to. Yeah. And then you have to laugh at like some of the stuff, like some of the craziness that exists on the internet. You're just like, yes. I can't control that.
Well, laughter is a cure-all for many things. That is for sure. Your successful attempt at the Platinum Wall brings together kind of all of the things that we're talking about in terms of athletic achievement, intellectual achievement, interpersonal relations, and absolutely just gutting something out in objectively awful situation. You had planned to do this thing in 15 or 16 days, but it takes 23, 9 of which were spent in this tiny, sopping wet portaledge hanging 2,600 feet in the air, waiting out this incredibly intense storm. I have so many questions about this. First, can you paint us a picture of just how teeny the portaledge was?
Yeah, there's a couple really funny things talking about laughter that I've seen on the internet related to this too, which is like, first of all, like, why didn't you check the weather forecast?
Yeah, classic,
so I'd like to set that record straight. This is a climb that I was working on for the last about 3 years. And it was kind of one of those like big, scary, hairy, audacious goals that brought me a lot of anxiety because I just never really thought that I could actually do it. So by the time we were going for a push attempt, you're constantly looking at weather forecasts every day. Obsessing. But the thing is, with a climb with our approach, like we were like, where it's going to take us 15 or 16 days, you're getting a solid weather forecast for like 8 to 10 days at best.
Right.
And so we started this process. We were 10 days in, and by the 8th day, we saw this weather forecast coming, and it was like 2 days of rain. And so we knew, okay, we're going to have to, like, on our 10th day, hunker down. We are targeting that we would make it to our next base camp, which is at 2,600 feet, 400 feet from the top. And we had 2 portaledges. So prior to that, the first week plus, my climbing partner Elliot and I were sharing a portaledge, which, to your question, is a 4 foot by 6 foot, essentially like a tent structure that is made of Dyneema, and its bottom is quite pulled tight, so it has like the firmness to sleep on, And then there's a rain shelter, which is essentially a tent that sits over the portaledge to prevent, rain from seeping in. So like a tent, but vertical, pretty small.
Like a tent, but like an awful, awful, awful tent.
Like a tiny tent.
I'm 6'5", a deuce 50. Like, this sounds like a tent that I could wear as like a boutonniere. Oh, there's rain coming. Better get in my tent. And I just place it on my head. A hilariously small tent.
Like a Gore-Tex sombrero.
Yes, exactly.
So by the time basically the storm hit, we were 10 days into climbing, the forecast just kept getting worse and worse. Like, it started as rain, and then there was like 50-mile-per-hour winds, which were pretty frightening because the poles were like bending in towards my chest. And I was just like lying there, like wondering if the poles were going to snap. Then the temps dropped. It was snowing. Then it was super icy. Like, the entire tent was encased in ice. And there's thunder and lightning. And then as the temps warmed, ice chunks started falling all around us from the summit. What I was mostly focused on was being as warm and dry as possible. I would take my wet clothes, wring it out, and then like wrap it around my body, because your bare body actually can help like emit heat, so that can dry clothing.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who likes to like, just sit still, and like, I've never been attracted to like a meditation retreat or something like that. So I would say boredom.
You're like, I meditated for 30 seconds, and now what do? I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Like, I'd like to like do multiple things.
Yes.
You're not like up there like sitting on Netflix, like we had one.
You didn't like lug up a TV with you.
That'd be amazing. I mean, had I known the forecast, had I checked it. Another funny thing was like, well, at least you'll be really well rested for the top. And I was like, man, it was so not restful. Like, we were not able to like stretch out, or we were rationing like what our food was. We knew that we could get a resupply after the storm, but we didn't know when that would be entirely. We were eating, breakfast was freeze dried, Sen bars for lunch, dinner was freeze dried food.
Yeah.
Had some Red Bull too. I would like kind of push out when my dinner time would be, or like really build up excitement, because by the time I hit the bottom of the bag of my freeze-dried dinner, it was like kind of sad, because that was one of the bigger excitement moments of my day. The hardest part of my day was always around like 2 p.m. because it'd be like, I've done the morning thing, I've kind of had my lunch. Now the only thing I have in the future is like, it's gonna get progressively colder, and then there's dinner, and then I have to like sleep, but I'm not so tired because I've just kind of sat here all day. I was like, man, my body needs to like move. The weather forecast got pretty grim, and then the biggest thing that was like really hard to stay positive around was the fact that the wall was just getting soaked and soaked and soaked. And in climbing, so much of what is guiding like your ability to climb something is friction. And when rock is wet, it's slippery, says the sign at every amusement park. You know what
According to science.
So, yeah. Essentially, the way that I saw it was like, here's this climb that I've been working on. Here I am, 3/4 the way through it, or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit here and wait this out to see if I can have an opportunity to try and do it. Mm-hmm. Because if it's 1 week, 2 weeks of my life, that's altogether less time than waiting another year to come back and be in the same position. But it was pretty funny because it was really loud outside with like the wind and the weather. Elliot and I would be like, I'd be like, how you doing? And he'd be like, living the dream.
Yeah. How much of staying, or even just the idea of the climb in the first place, is personal? Like, I've climbed sections of this before. I want to do the whole thing. It's a beautiful aesthetic climb on the most famous wall in all of the world. I love being here and I love climbing. This is just what I love to do. And how much of it is career achievement? Like, I absolutely want to be the 4th person ever to do this and first woman ever to do this.
It was less about that record on paper than it was like toggling between going down at a weather window where it would be like lighter rain and less full-on storm, and staying. There was actually a night where we were about midway through the storm, and Elliot and I were talking about it, and he was like, the wall's just going to be wet after this. Like, we should go down. And we kind of made that soft plan. And then at night, I had this dream that I like sincerely regretted it. And it was like the strangest thing, because in my dream, I got home and like all of the pain had left my body, and like I was dry and I regretted it. Like I felt this visceral feeling of sadness for leaving. And then I woke up that morning and I was like, hey, this is going to be crazy. Do you mind if we stay till Tuesday and just like see if after Tuesday the weather improves? And Elliot, like, so many props to him. I mean, he was like, talk about like what I learned from past trips and like finding a really great partner. He was like such an important ingredient for like why we could do the climb together. And mind you, like, he was not sending. By the time we were passing the storm, like, he had switched largely into this supportive role of like me sending it.
Yeah.
And he was so psyched and like positive, and not holding what I've experienced in the past with certain partners who've been like, kind of like have like this weird background of like a bit of jealousy over like me doing something and them not, or something like that. Like there was none of that. It was just like pure positivity.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, let's ride it out. After that dream, Tommy Caldwell sent me a text where I was like talking to him about whether I should stay or go. And it was on a thread with Tommy and Alex. And Tommy said something really empowering that was like, just remember, you're on a grand adventure, and what you may regret is not giving it every bit of effort that you can. And so I was like, you know, Tommy's right. Like, I'm in it. I may as well stay in it. The worst case scenario, like, I don't do it, but like, what a life memory.
Once the weather breaks, you have 7 more very challenging pitches. You also have to deal with the fact that these things are now slicker than snot because they've been getting soaked by rain and snow and ice. So what did it feel like to actually top out on this thing, to complete the climb? And also, like, what did it feel like to walk for the first time in 23 days?
Well, so when I first rounded the top, it was really emotional. Elliot actually, 3 pitches from the top, had to leave. He had a family emergency. Ryan Sheridan, who I had actually spent a lot of time working on this climb with, came and belayed me, which was also really special because I got like 2 in 1, like 2 awesome friends to be a part of this journey and climb it with.
Yeah.
So he supported me, and then Pablo was filming, Christian Pondello was taking photos. And like it crest over the top, and all of a sudden got some friends at the top. My husband hiked up to the top, and I like was
hey everybody.
Hey, so weird.
I bet. I bet.
Here you are. And then I took a step, and like it was the first time, you know, I took a step where like the consequences of me like dropping something wouldn't be like it falling thousands of feet down.
Right. Yeah.
And I just started laughing because like my leg was like pretty like just wiggly. Like it was like, whoa, we're on solid ground. And I had been wearing my harness for like the last 3+ weeks. Taking that off and like not having something around my waist was really nice.
Oh, I bet.
All this gear hanging off of my harness for so long. I was like, well, this is what it feels like to just be me. And then the deep irony was like, I got so sore from the hike down the next day because I hadn't hiked in so many days that was like the sorest part of my body.
I got brand new legs. I don't know how to use them. You've called this the hardest climb of your career, which, considering your career, is really saying something. Now that you've had some time from it and a little bit of distance from the accomplishment, has it come to mean anything more than, oh my God, that was so hard, I'm so proud of myself kind of reaction? Does it represent something deeper now, something heavier even?
Yeah, I would say that this climb was so deeply personal for me and like physically challenging, mentally grueling, and something that didn't have any relief. On previous big walls that I've done, there's always been like a standout pitch. And normally my approach has been like, okay, this is the 514 pitch. I'm going to try and send that. And then when I send it, I'm going to go for the ground and send it again, like in this continuous push to do the climb. And that ability to do it has been, I've left the ground with like probably like an 80-85% certainty that I'm going to be able to do it. When I left the ground for this climb, I was like, I don't know, maybe 15% chance. Like I had tried about 25% of the climb prior. And so there was so much unknown. There was just so much hard technical climbing in front of us. El Capitan has a specific technique and style in climbing that is different from other walls that I've done. It was the first goal of my career that felt bigger than me. And I don't know why exactly, but I never, leading into the trip, didn't feel anxiety about it. My husband would be like, you're going to do it this season. I would kind of be annoyed because I'd be like, you don't understand how hard it is for me. I think that what I learned was that you never know until you try, but also it's okay if your goal feels bigger than you and it gives you anxiety and keeps you up and feels so beyond the attainable. When you break down the process and you just give yourself the ability to be in it and be a part of the process and almost give into it, then you can really surprise yourself with what you're capable of. I'm just throwing myself at this thing that I don't know if I can do. Maybe it's all a waste of time, but I'm learning and becoming a better climber in the process. You can have this really big goal and not totally know how you're going to do it. You don't start climbing something like platinum and be like, I can't wait to be at the top. You're not thinking about the summit. And every day on the wall, I took the wins where I could get them.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
I sent this pitch. Okay, I have 2 more really hard pitches to do today. And then the next day, okay, yesterday was great, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is today and how I perform on these next pitches. You need to kind of get granular to get to that overall end goal. Life can be overwhelming and sometimes you just feel like you have too much on your plate or you don't know how you're gonna get something done in a week. But the way that I always see it is what can I do today? And something that I struggle with a lot that I'm working on is kind of closing the laptop or turning off the lights of the gym at the end of the day. And maybe you didn't do everything that you had on the docket, but tried to do your best and finding solace in that. It's a work in progress, but in the end of the day, all you can do is do your best. And with platinum, that was how I saw it too. It was I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to give it my all and try.
So it is now time for the final ramble. One piece of gear you cannot live without.
Huh. My climbing shoes?
That sounded like a question. I don't know. Are you asking me? I don't know. I was going to say maybe the portaledge, but I don't know.
Right.
Did you burn that thing afterwards?
I would say my climbing shoes.
Okay.
I mean, they're pretty important.
I think so. Okay. Now, I believe I know the answer to this already, but best outdoor snack.
Wow. Gotta send it. With
Send
the send
bars,
bars.
Use Send It at checkout for 20% off your next Send Bar.
Yeah.
And
totally.
What is your hottest outdoor hot take?
Oh, hottest. You mean what's the tea or?
Yeah.
Carry out what you carry in is a really important hot take. Leave no trace.
Emotional. Oh, of course. Yeah.
I just. It
I
really
thought you were
bums
talking
me out.
emotionally, as well.
Oh.
But maybe also.
Maybe leave the space as positive. Don't leave your trauma at the door.
Don't leave your emotional doggy bag at the crack.
Yeah. I think that my biggest hot take is it really bumps me out when I see just trash littered on the trail.
Yeah.
So definitely carry all your stuff out. And then I guess the second to that, to play off that emotional doggy bag, so to speak, it's just bring a good vibe. Just be a kind individual.
I don't even think that's much of a hot. It's just, don't be a dick.
Basic
there
one.
it is. The big headline is Sasha says, don't be a dick.
Put precisely. Yeah.